Good day, everyone. This is Juanita Kapp from South Africa, but today I'm streaming from Texas, and I'm so excited to have my wonderful guest here. Many know him as the Viking Samurai, and his name is David Kurzhal. He's a good friend of mine, fellow martial artist. We actually have the same GM, and we're going to talk about that as well today. So I welcome David to the stage.
Thanks for having me, Juanita. Happy to be here. I'm doing great. How are you doing?
I'm doing well, thank you, and happy 4th of July, right?
Oh, yes. Happy 4th of July, everybody.
So what will you be doing on this wonderful day?
I'm going to spend time with my brother's family, and I'm actually staying in California right now for quite a bit of time because I'm training for this big fight on September 28th against Sugar Shane Mosley, one of the greatest boxers of all time. So I am spending the summer in California, and it's going to be the biggest challenge of my life, but it's great to spend time with my brother because I live in the Midwest, so I don't see him like too much. So this is really great, time to spend with him and his family.
And you get to train, and it's a beautiful setting where you're in. Now, what came about? How did this happen?
Oh, Juanita, the stream broke up a little bit. Did you ask how the fight came about?
All get set up for you.
Oh, hang on. This connection, I think, is a little wonky.
No problem.
Yeah, a little connection problem. What was the question?
So now it's a win-win for you. You're training in a beautiful setting for this fight. How did this happen? How did this fight come about?
That's a really long story, and there were so many different pieces, and the stars aligned. So, man, there's so many different elements to it, and it's a good story. So, I had the idea of doing a boxing match for a while. And when you want to do anything, you want to do something big, right? So I had a big name opponent in my head for a while, but there's obviously multiple steps you got to take. A lot of it happened because of networking. So I had actually met Damon Feldman, the head of Celebrity Boxing, through a mutual friend named Jeff Gibson, who I had actually met through another mutual friend named Rick Stanford, who I had met when I was shooting Warrior Island. From James Jefferson, and James Jefferson became aware of me because of my YouTube channel, and he was putting together this show/movie and invited me to Warrior Island to participate, which was a great experience last summer. So that's how I met a bunch of really great individuals, martial artists. That's actually where I met Silvio Simac.
Oh,
great guy.
Silvio, our mutual friend. Yes, a shout out to Silvio in the UK. He's our mutual friend, amazing guy.
And me and him had a really fun fight scene on Warrior Island,
Good.
So, but anyway, that's how far back the connection goes, where I met Damon Feldman from Celebrity Boxing. And then, so Jeff had actually introduced us and he set up an email, and Damon just happens to live in the Philadelphia area where I spend time with my friend Brian out there. We do a couple of different business related things out there. So, I was emailing Damon back and forth and found out he lived in Philly. So, of course I wanted to meet him in person. So I did get his phone number and have to talk to him. Now he gets a lot of people that reach out to him. They want to be on the Celebrity Boxing platform. He hears so much. Everybody, okay, you want to fight too? Yeah, sure. I'll put you on the list of 1,000 other people. Big deal, right? So I could kind of tell when I initially first talked to him on the phone, he's not that excited. He doesn't know anything about me, none of that. But anyway, I was able to hype myself up and sell myself to him enough where he agreed to meet me at a diner. That was earlier this year, so we had a really nice lunch meeting with me and Brian and him and his guy. And, we planned to do something. We went back and forth a little bit, but long story short, I did fight for him on the platform on March 9th in Atlantic City. It was a great event. It was fun. You know, I got some good ring experience and everything else in the realm of boxing, because prior to that I had only competed in taekwondo tournaments, and that was like back in the day. That's a long time ago. Yeah. But anyway, here's what's crazy. I had actually torn my bicep. Well, you probably can't really see the scar here, but there's a really bad scar. So I had torn that bicep in November, had it reattached, had the surgery. So I didn't even have full use of that arm in that boxing match. It's kind of important to have two arms in a boxing match, you know? So I was a little bit limited, but I figured it would be good enough by March 9th, which it was good enough to like not re-injure it, you know? So it would be good enough, because the thing is, it's the opportunity. I didn't want to turn down that opportunity, because you don't know when another opportunity is going to come. Right. So I did that fight. It went out. It turned out well. I got the win, you know. So prior to that though, Damon, he knows a lot of people. He actually introduced me to Jackie Kaylan. She's the first lady of boxing. She's in the Boxing Hall of Fame. Yep. They literally made a movie about her called Against the Ropes, starring Meg Ryan. Like, Meg Ryan played her in a movie. That's how cool her life is, right? That's amazing. Anyway, I got to talking to her. And speaking of movies, you know, of course, I'm using this as leverage. Like, hey, I'm in movies. I'm in martial arts movies. That's me in the Last Kumite. I had also shot another movie called Bloodstorm where I'm the lead. That'll come out later this summer. So I'm using that as leverage and telling Damon, like, hey, look, I'm going to be the quote martial art movie star who does a real fight, because we never really seen Bruce Lee do a real fight or Van Damme do a real fight. And I'm starting to build up the whole movie thing. So that's how we'll market me. I'll be the martial art movie guy that does a real fight. And he loved the idea. You know, that's what helped me get that fight on March 9th. So anyway, the reason I bring up Jackie Kaylan is I'm telling her the same stuff. You know, it's like, look, I got these movies. I'm going to be the martial art movie guy that does the real fight. And she's like, oh, that's cool. You know, I love your personality, love your energy. You're getting, you know, you're starting to build the name up. You know, you got a presence online. You're doing movies. And if your fight goes good on March 9th, maybe we could get you, you know, like a big opponent, because these so-called influencer fights are kind of like the big deal right now with Jake Paul, Mike Tyson, you know, things like that. People are interested in that kind of stuff. So she's the one, you know, I had a couple different ideas in my head, but she's the one that put Sugar Shane Mosley in my head. She said, oh, maybe we could get you a fight with Sugar Shane Mosley. I know the guy. She knows everybody in the boxing world. So she put his name in my head, and then I'm like, wow, that guy is so amazing. It's like, why not? Why couldn't I do a match against him in the future? Right? We don't want to put limits on ourselves, and sometimes it's good. Like, people will help expand your horizons and thoughts, and you know, or they'll put limits on you and say, oh, that'll never happen. Because I had a lot of people say, oh, you're never gonna get a big fight, you're never gonna do movies, you're never gonna do this. You know, a lot of negative people out there, but then you have people like Jackie putting those ideas, like, you could fight somebody like Shane. It's like, why can't I? You know, it's like, of course, why not? You know? So anyway, fast forward about 6 weeks, and I have not done the fight on March 9th yet. I'm actually in California, and I'm training with Don the Dragon Wilson at Phil Polina's gym. Yeah, Don Wilson is amazing. He's incredible. I was sparring with him yesterday. The man defies age. Like, he still moves like a 30-year-old. But anyway, I'm training with Don the Dragon Wilson, and he says, oh, we got to cut the training a little bit short today because I got to go to an event. I said, oh, well, what event are you going to? He's like, oh, it's some like beauty pageant thing, and I was supposed to go with Cynthia Rothrock, but she didn't want to go. Then I said, well, Don, can I go with you then? And he said, well, let me call a promoter. And he put me on the phone with the promoter. I basically said, hey, can I go with Don? And the guy was like, yeah, sure, why not, you know? So anyway, me and Don go to that event, and there's like a lot of celebrities and stuff out there. And guess who we see on the red carpet?
I have no idea. Who was there?
We see Sugar Shane Mosley.
Oh my God.
Yeah, so Don is like, hey, look, it's Shane Mosley. I was like, wow, you know? So we go up to him, and I introduced myself, you know. I was like, hey, big fan, you know, would love to take a picture with you. and get a picture with him. And I leave it at that because I don't want to take up too much of his time. He's talking to a bunch of other people, you know. So I just introduced myself real quick. But here's where it gets crazy. And this is why I know this fight is destiny, a universe, or you could even say God, like, put us together literally. So everybody at this event is assigned a certain table. Me and Don Wilson happened to be assigned at table 11, along with Olivia Gruner, another great guy, another martial art movie star, right? So anyway, we're at table 11, and there's an open seat right next to me. Guess who's also assigned to table 11?
Shane.
Shane Mosley, and he sits right next to me. So this is like too good. This is like too good because remember, I'm constantly thinking about him because Jackie put his name in my head and I'm training for this boxing match. So I strike up the whole conversation, talk about Jackie, how she had mentioned his name, how I'm training for this fight. I got these movies coming out. And if the fight goes well, I would love to have, you know, a match against you is what I tell him. And he was like, yeah, that sounds great, you know. So, you know, we exchanged numbers. We've kept in contact ever since. And I've also ran into him again in public at the BKFC event, bare knuckle boxing. Right. Now, Damon Feldman from Celebrity Boxing, his brother David Feldman runs the BKFC, right. And that is a crazy success story. The BKFC is literally worth $400 million now, and it was 4 years ago he was struggling to get financing to put on these fights. Now Conor McGregor bought a stake in it. That's how big the BKFC is. Yes. But anyway, I bring that up because, you know, Damon had hooked me up with some VIP tickets to go. And I brought my boxing trainer and a couple other guys. I ran into Shane Mosley again, you know, and kept the conversation alive, like saying, hey, Shane, this is the guy, Phil Polina, who's going to help train me for our match in the future, you know, just to keep the conversation alive. Because obviously there's a lot more that goes into it than just say, oh, yeah, okay, we'll have a match. Oh, you know, you got to get the promotion. You got to find the backing, get the sponsor, all that. It's a whole, literally a whole production. So, but long story short, that's basically kind of how it happened. And now the fight's going down on September 28th. It's the return of Sugar Shane Mosley. He's coming back. And we're doing the press conference in Philadelphia next Thursday on July 11th. And that's going to be a lot of fun. People will see the face-off. We'll kind of talk, you know, our talk about, you know, ourselves and the fight and everything else.
It's going to be awesome. It's going to be awesome. I know David Feldman. He was on the show as well. And I recently spoke to David as well. I'm so proud of him for his journey of success. Absolutely incredible. And Jackie, I know as well. Jackie is amazing. She's such a wonderful person. She's accomplished so much, but she's such a wonderful person, you know, open, loving, caring person. She cares about the boxers that she works with. That's one thing that I picked up from the beginning. So shout out to all of them and Sylvia as well. And then I wanted to ask you, Bloodstorm, aren't you in that film with Alan DeLaby as well?
No, not Alan DeLaby. We do have some great actors in there. We got Michael Pare, great actor. We got Richard Tyson, who was the main villain in Kindergarten Cop, great actor. And we got our mutual friend Sylville Simak. Now, I had convinced the director to get him in there. The director is Renee Perez. I said, hey, look, because, you know, me and Sylville worked on Warrior Island, right? I was like, we got to get this guy. Like, he's great martial artist. He's very big, very intimidating, and he's great to work with. So we did get him in Bloodstorm.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I met Sylvia last year. He was on the show here, and then I got to meet him in January at the Action Martial Arts Hall of Honor. And now he's also going to be a facilitator at the MAM Hall of Fame, which you're also a part of. So I'm so happy. And I can see how you're talking about the dots connecting, right? It's like everything just gets woven together. It's crazy. Everybody, you know, how it just comes together. It's amazing.
It is how that works, you know. Like I feel like when you put something out there and you're looking for it, right. I don't know if you're religious or not. I am. Like if somebody's not, they could just say the universe because it works on the same level. I say God though instead of the universe. But if you're actually looking for something, we're surrounded by everything. Like the universe is so abundant. Like, unless you're looking for it, you won't find it though. Like, for example, you know, I'm parked on the street right here. If I was looking for a red car, I would find one. But maybe if I'm not, then I don't even notice it. I don't even see it. You know, so if you're looking for certain things, like God will put the right people together. Like the way I look at it, like even if something is destiny, which I had mentioned, this Shane Mosley fight for me is destiny. But even if something's destiny, it doesn't mean it's going to happen. But God will give you the different pieces of the puzzle. You just have to put them together. But He's going to provide you with everything. But you have to put the work in. So it's like, yeah, I connected the puzzle to help facilitate that, met all the right people. They did their thing. And it's the same thing with the training camp. Like, I refer to Shane Mosley as my Mount Everest. Like, that is such an extreme challenge. Like in karate, like, you know, I'm very good, but in boxing, I'm not at that level. Not yet. I will be on September 28th because see, I had found the right team. And like, so Don Wilson, I train with him a lot. He's got so much experience, wisdom, and everything else, but he's a kickboxer. I mean, he's trained in boxing a lot, but see, the guy that runs the gym, Phil Plena, he's a genius boxing coach, because somebody could be a great boxer doesn't mean they know how to coach. So the time I spent with him, I truly believe he's literally the only guy that could actually help me with this miracle. Like, if I win, it's literally going to be a miracle. It's the real life Rocky story. It's 1,000,001 shot, but there is a shot. And I do believe with Phil and my work ethic and my discipline and my crazy self-belief, which some people may say is delusion, but my crazy self-belief, like, I do think I could pull this off. I wouldn't want to fight Shane tomorrow, but on September 28th, I will be more than ready. I'll be ready because whenever somebody's like presented with a challenge, they'll not everybody, but if you're fully committed and even obsessed with this thing, which I am with the boxing now, you will step up to that challenge. And because the challenge is so high, I know what I have to put myself through. And luckily I align myself with the right people to help pull this off, because nobody's going to be able to do anything by themselves. You always need other people, and you need the right people. And I have that. So I'm very blessed and grateful and honored just to share the ring with Sugar Shane Mosley, like just to share the ring and that experience, despite the outcome, which you know, what's going to happen is going to happen. I'm going to go all in. I'm going to know I gave it my all, and I'm going to be happy with whatever happens, because I know I'm fully committed and did what I had to do. So I'm just honored to, after all said and done, be a part of Shane's history in the world of boxing.
Absolutely, because that's going to be remembered forever and ever, right? That you stepped in that ring. And it's true, you know, it's good that you are fine with any outcome, because you've decided you're going to give. Because listen to all the people that you're surrounded with, like you mentioned, you've got the best people. And people can really accomplish anything if they really put their minds to it. I thought about the ice hockey player. He said, you miss 100% of the shots that you don't take. And you're taking a shot. And that's a good thing. We have to challenge ourselves. We have to, you know, put that manifestation out there. Some people, I speak on this show, I speak about God, but I also speak about the universe for those who experience it in a different way. I believe it's all the same. I was an ordained pastor for 15 years, so I believe in God as well, but I do manifest. I do put things out and manifest that energy, and it happens that, you know, I said to Christy Roberts, shout out to him as well. He was in the recent Cobra Kai series, which is going to be streaming on July 18th, but I said to him in one of our interviews, I said, what you are seeking is also seeking you. So that's why when you mentioned the red cars, you know, when you go out and you say, I'm going to go buy a red Yaris. If you are on the road, the funny thing is all of a sudden you'll just see red Yaris everywhere, like you said. But if you don't manifest or focus on that thing, it's going to pass you by and you won't notice. Now your focus is here for this match. The commitment is there. You're busy with the movies. Now, I wanted to ask you something. Viking Samurai. You've got a Taekwondo background. Tell me, how did Viking Samurai come together? How did you get that name?
Yeah, it's such a cool name, by the way, isn't it? So, about over 4 years ago, well, I guess it's like over 4.5 years ago, I needed a creative outlet, and the name ties into the YouTube channel. So I'm like, in an office all day, stockbroker, on the phone, doing trades, talking investments, all this stuff with people all day, like that's a job, that's a career that some people do. That's what I ended up doing for years. And it's not bad. Like it's some interest to me, but like I was unfulfilled, to be honest, and I needed a creative outlet. Like I of course I always do my martial arts training, I do my bodybuilding, all that's great, that's good. But I needed like a creative outlet, and YouTube just seemed like the thing to do because I was always interested in editing videos and all that kind of stuff. And anybody could start a YouTube channel. Like anybody watching this could literally start a YouTube channel right now if they want to. They could record videos on their phone. They could edit on their phone. They don't even need a computer, and they could put it out there. And for me, it was a creative outlet. But of course, you need a name for the channel. So I was just kind of thinking like, I need a good name, something like original. I can't just be like action movie fan guy or whatever. That's very, very generic, right?
Right.
So of course, I'm of mixed race, so there's ancestral ties to the Vikings and the Samurais.
Good.
Like the dad side's European and the mom's Asian. I mean, my mom's technically Korean, but I did find out through a DNA test I'm 10% Japanese. There's an interesting history with Japan and Korea. It's probably why that happened with the occupation, and not the prettiest history, but the history is what it is, And then on the dad's side, even though he's more German, but there is Northern European there. So I could justifiably be, well, hey, there's enough Northern European there and there's enough Japanese there. And these are two warrior classes, and I love it because I'm a martial artist, So let me just combine the two, and it sounds very original. So that's basically how I came up with the name.
That was a great idea because it is a catchy name. It really is the Viking Samurai, and that's good. You have to, when you put that stuff out there, that content out on the YouTube, it's something that people will go to and they will watch your videos and they will follow you. But you mentioned something, I think you mentioned that Jackie said, you have a great personality, and that also goes with YouTubing, right? You have to be able to work with people. And now hearing that you were working in trading and stock trading, that makes sense because working with people is very important. And also in your film journey, that's a good trait to have because, you build those relationships with people like with Don, with Silvio, also Gary. And I said to someone the other day, the martial arts community, people that are not martial artists don't always understand how we just understand each other, how we just connect, how we just click. It's a kind of energy that we share. I guess because we've had that blood, sweat, and tears in our journey, that hard training, our character was shaped, and we've changed as people now. How did you get into Taekwondo? Why did you start martial arts?
Yeah, that's a good question. That happened so long ago, and it ties into the YouTube channel too. I'll explain. So that was like in 1993. I was in middle school. I was the typical skinny kid with glasses, getting picked on, bullied. So, that's the reason why the movie The Karate Kid resonates with so many people, especially young men. It's like we go to school. There's, I know there's a lot of anti-bully campaigns, but there's always going to be bullies, unfortunately. But here's the thing. Look, I don't like bullies, of course. Nobody should. But they do serve a purpose because, I mean, people like me, like martial arts had changed my life, and I probably wouldn't have gotten into it had I not been bullied, crazy enough, even though I despise bullies. So they almost serve a weird purpose in a way, right? So basically, I was getting bullied. I was a skinny kid, so I started lifting weights. I started doing martial arts because, you watch movies and you see those, especially in the 80s and 90s, the action movies, like the guys like Steven Skull, Jean-Claude Van Damme. These are like single guys who can beat up 10 people.
Right.
Yeah, it's movie magic, but they can take care of themselves, and as like a young kid, you see that and you're like, wow, I need to be like that. That's what I need to be,
Right.
because then when I go to school, no one's going to mess with me. And if they did, they would be the ones in trouble, right? So I had that mindset, just brainwashed by these martial arts movies. And I'm like, okay, that's what I got to do. So, my dad signed my brother up for Taekwondo. And, I was working out at the Army gym at the time because we grew up on Army bases. And I've stuck with it ever since for like 30 years now. It's just been a passion. And I'm so happy that I found the two disciplines, because it kept me out of trouble. Like a lot of my friends at that time were starting to experiment with drinking and doing drugs and, people skipping school and shoplifting and all that, the things that kids go through. And I dabbled in that a little bit, but my training, I was so focused on that, I prioritized that. So I wasn't really hanging out and doing the bad stuff, because I would be training all the time. So, even if you, like, for example, a lot of kids, they'll go to Taekwondo class like 3-4 times a week for an hour. But see, I was the kid that would train for hours every day. And that way, when you go back to class, you're so much better than the guys that only go there and train 3 or 4 hours a week. So I was just like consumed by it.
That's true. And it's a good kind of brainwashing, really. It changes people. I've seen so many amazing transformations in the dojo, all ages. And people don't always understand that the dojo becomes your second home. If you're not at school, if you're not at home, the dojo is where you want to be, because you also have your friends there, and your kiyoshi, your master, your sensei. Different styles have different names for your teacher, but that is a person that does not only teach you how to fight. That is a person that really invests into your life, invests into you, and teaches you amazing philosophies and also life skills. I said to someone yesterday here in Texas, I said, I believe that martial arts should be a subject in school to help to shape their character too. And they don't have to go all the way to black belt. If they leave school and they don't want to continue with it, but give them that foundation, give them that discipline, help them to shape their character so that they will, stay humble, and that they will have good manners, and that they will, look at community different, because martial artists, we are a community. A dojo is a home. A mashi dojo is a place where you train, but you can also feel comfortable when you're there. It's your family. So it's amazing to hear many of the other martial artists that I've interviewed they've had the same journey. They were bullied. They were coming out of situations where they totally felt helpless. They felt like they needed to be empowered, and martial arts gave them that. And funny enough, martial artists are not people who pick fights with other people on the street. We are the calm ones. We know how to react in a situation, but we're the ones that want to bring peace and put good energy out there. But we have a journey. And I wanted to ask you, we all have victories in life, and we all have disappointments. Sometimes, life happens. Is there something that you can think about, maybe a scenario, and it doesn't have to be in any certain area of your life, but what was a great personal victory for you? A situation that you faced and you felt like you had great personal victory in that situation?
Oh, well, you make a good point where martial arts, you're not looking for a fight. You don't want to hurt anybody. So I would say a great personal victory, it was a situation where this was probably like, well, I mean, it might have been like in 2010 or 2012. I was hanging out with my friend Jason, right? And we were at some bar club in Ventura County. The best possible scenario could have happened. I'll tell you why. Like, it's funny in the martial arts journey. I think when you first start training and you start gaining some of these skills, like you almost want to test yourself when you're early and you're immature. It's like,
Right.
okay, because you're getting bullied, right? And it's like,
Right.
now I'm learning how to fight. Okay. And then like, okay, come on, like I'll fight this kid in school. Like I'm ready now, but then it never really happened. You grow out of that, obviously, as you
Right.
mature and you become a better person and a martial arts. But anyway, one of the incidents that had happened was, and I don't even know how it happened, because when people are drunk or buzzed, they're a little different mentally, right? So anyway, long story short, I'm with my friend, and there's this big guy like arguing with them, and I'm just kind of watching. For me, it's entertaining. I'm just like, oh, I wonder what's gonna happen, But then like he pushes us, and my drink like goes flying in slow motion. Like I remember that vividly. It was like slow motion, and I didn't even think. I just reacted and took the guy down. And like basically I had him where I had his arm wrapped around his chest with my knee on him. And like literally I could have pummeled his face in. Like he looked like he was so scared, like a deer in headlights, right? Imagine being in that vulnerable position with a guy on top of you, and you cannot move, and he's got his fist up. And I was just exchanging words. But see, the best possible thing could have happened, because basically the situation was taken care of, but I didn't technically I didn't have to lay a finger on him. Like I could have pulverized him had I been an angry individual, but I did just enough to basically control the situation until the bouncer came. So I was very proud of that, because again, like, he did quote attack us in a way, like there was a physical movement that happened that caused that. But without even thinking, I was able to get him in that position. But then like I knew the limit. Like there's no point to like, just beat him if he's like that vulnerable. So it was like the perfect outcome. So I'm very proud of that. Like I'm very proud of that, because there's legal repercussions too.
That's true.
So just to control myself, even though I had some booze in my system, but to know the limit, like I don't have to do anything else. And I didn't. So I was proud of that.
That's absolutely true. I agree with you. Is to stay in that, we have to stay in that, and that's what we learn, right? To stay in that frame, that mental framework of having peace and calm, that equanimity. Everything can go haywire around us, and if you had to react, but you didn't take it further. And I think that made a big point and taught him a big lesson in his life that day. Because you could have hurt him, but you did not. So definitely you could be proud of yourself for that as well. Now, on the other side of the coin, I want to ask you disappointments. People don't always like to talk about that, but I like to get to the heart of things, to the good stuff. We all suffer disappointments, and I think it's very important that we share if we have a disappointment and how we dealt with it. Because that's a lesson to other people out there. If they face something similar, maybe it gives them hope. Maybe it connects that dot for them. Have you ever had a disappointment, and how did you react to it, or how did you respond to it? How did you move on from that point to where you are today?
That's a great question, and it kind of ties into what I'm doing right now in my life. One last comment I want to make on the other story, though, and this is important for people to know, especially in the martial arts. I was in a public place, so that there's a level of safety in being civil. Now, if somebody is mugging you like in the street, in a dark alley or something, there's no reason to hold back whatsoever if your life's in danger. Like this, I knew was a situation, couple rowdy guys, nobody's life's in danger, nobody's trying to kill anybody. Not to say that can't happen in a bar, like I'm sure it has, but I assess the situation. We're in a decent neighborhood. Like Ventura County is a good place to live, so there was no sense of, and nobody was going to get killed there, But my point is, as a martial artist, you got to be aware of these different levels, because there are those levels where you should not, under any circumstance, hold back. And I've taken years of Krav Maga, which teaches situational awareness. So I'm aware of those situations. Like there are scenarios where I would not hold back at all. But in that, like I knew the environment. And like I said, I did enough. I just want to point that out, because some people might say, "Oh, well, what about this scenario?" It's like, well, yeah, you got to think about that kind of stuff ahead of time. But as far as disappointments go, I would say with everything I'm doing right now is something I tried doing about 20 years ago. Like I was living in Sacramento at the time. I was in college. I didn't really know what I wanted to do with my life. I'm out of high school. Yes, I'm training martial arts and bodybuilding, but very few people make a living as a martial artist or a bodybuilder, right? I mean, yeah, you could be a martial arts instructor or whatever, a personal trainer, which I did do that in college, to help pay through college. Yeah. But anyway, trying to figure out what I want to do with my life. I'm in Air Force ROTC because I was going to be like an officer in the Air Force. Yeah. So I was in the Air Force ROTC program, but I have corrected vision. Like they do not let you fly any of the good planes or jets, even if you had LASIK. Like if you have corrected vision whatsoever, you can't fly that stuff. They're $50 million jets. They're not going to, they want someone with perfect genetic eyesight to fly those. Oh. So that I was like, okay, at best they let me fly a cargo plane. Well, like I wasn't really interested. So the ROTC, and the thing is, I grew up a military brat. It was more my dad wanted me to join the military. It wasn't really something I wanted to do. But if somebody is to do it, you're way better doing it through the ROTC program in college. Because if you have a college degree, you immediately become an officer.
Oh wow!
Like you're a pretty high rank, in the military. That's the way to do it, Yeah. Anyway, I was tinkering around with that. I was doing computer engineering. I was doing graphic design. I was always interested in filmmaking from both ends, filmmaking, screenwriting, and also acting. And I was taking some acting classes in college. And then we had a couple film classes, but you couldn't major in it at Sac State. Like, I don't know if that has changed. It might have changed now, but you couldn't major in it. You could minor in it, but you couldn't really do anything. And I mean, looking back, like a film degree, it's kind of worthless in a way, because you don't really do anything with a film degree, right? I mean, maybe you can network and meet other film students and get involved with the projects they do after school. But the film degree itself, nobody cares. You're not going to go to Sony Pictures. Hey, look, I got a film degree. It's like, yeah, who cares, man?
Doesn't get you on the
But the thing is, anyway, I was going to CSUS, that was Sacramento, California State University, and they had a media arts festival at Northridge, in Northridge, California. And I took a field trip with a bunch of guys to go out there, including one of the film. Like I said, you could take some film classes, but you couldn't major in it. So they did have a film professor we went with. And, the school seemed cool, and you could major in film. So I had actually just got the crazy idea. Well, I don't know anybody down there, but I'll figure it out. Like I'll move down there. I'll find a roommate, which at the time I did on Craigslist because social media was even really a thing. Like no one had Facebook or anything, right? So it was a nightmare. I mean, an absolute nightmare. What went on in that house? I could literally write a book about that. It was crazy. But anyway, I lived there for a little bit until I got out. But I was able to get in the film program. Now, it's very competitive because a lot of people, even though the degree is kind of worthless, everybody wants to study film in Southern California. A lot of aspiring filmmakers, screenwriters, etc. Because this is where the industry, it's since expanded quite a, So I did not get in the first time, by the way. I failed, but I'm not the kind of guy that gives up. So I tried again, and did my portfolio, obviously put more work into it, and then got accepted, did graduate, double major, screenwriting and film editing. Wasn't able to do anything with it. I mean, aside from some of the knowledge, right? Like I did learn how to properly write a screenplay. Like you learn the mechanics. You either have the creativity or you don't, but you at least learn the mechanics and understand story structure and all that kind of stuff. So you could put something together if, you have good ideas, hopefully. So anyway, I graduated with that and I was doing more acting classes and auditioning. This town, well, you could just say life in general is all about networking, right? And at the time, like I said, social media wasn't really a thing. So I wasn't able to network the way I do now. And in person, I wasn't meeting the right people. So you always got to meet and align yourself with the right people, and hopefully you could get involved where everybody could mutually benefit in some way. I wasn't able to do that 20 years ago, unfortunately, and I was just going on, like an audition, and very few people make it by just going on auditions like that. Most people make it through networking. They know somebody who knows somebody. Like the best project I did back in the day was because I basically knew a lady at the gym who I was training in martial arts because, she's seen me training there. And it's like, hey, she struck up a conversation, and then I showed her some stuff, and, we became friends. And her friend's husband was actually, he was like the visual effects guy for this movie Salt with Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie.
Yes. Right?
Yeah, so he's worked on some big films, but he wanted to become a director. So he ended up doing this short film / trailer as like a concept that he wanted to hopefully present to people and then get the financing to make the feature length. Yeah. So anyway, that was like a pretty nice little production, even though it was just for like a trailer / But I only got that because, again, somebody I knew who knew somebody. And then I talked to the guy, and he's like, yeah, okay, sure. You'd be great for this Russian mobster guy in this thing, right? So anyway, I always knew in the back of my head, I'm not going to make it through that traditional audition process. I'd have to find a different way in. And funny enough, it happened to be through all the network I was able to do through the YouTube channel, meeting the right people, and then building up the Instagram, and people see, oh, this guy's actually good martial artist, because you kind of showcase yourself on social media. It works for other people, and it's worked for me. So, but the right people have to see it. But anyway, I had moved to the and there's a long story behind this, but I had moved to the Midwest 7 or 8 years ago, and once I moved there, my whole dream of doing movies, why I went to college and did all that and got that major and was pursuing the auditions in LA. Once I wasn't physically living here anymore, I was just, that chapter of my life was kind of pretty much closed, because okay, that's just happened for me. And I had to try to become okay with that, because, I'm a failure. 99% of people dreams or their big goals, they fail. Whatever. I mean, I tried, it didn't work out, and then I'm going to close that chapter. The never really dies. It eats at you. It comes up every once in a while, and you feel unfulfilled. You're like, oh man. So anyway, I'm living in the Midwest. I get into the financial industry, something completely different. Actually, here's where the film degree did actually come into play a little bit, because getting into a brokerage firm, they don't really care if you have a finance degree. They just want you to have a degree in anything, just because it proves that you started something, you finished it, and that's pretty good, because it at least separates you from the people that start something and don't finish it. So the degree wasn't entirely worthless. It was a degree that, okay, he has a degree, good enough, But then you have to obviously get your licenses. I got my Series 7, my 9, my 10, all this stuff, right?
Yeah.
So anyway, and again, this ties into the YouTube channel. I needed a creative outlet. So I started the YouTube channel about 4.5 years ago, talking about my passions, the action of martial arts films and all that. And, after a while, I started interviewing people and just, building good rapport, building relationships. Networking, it's all about relationships. Fast forward, I mean, if it weren't for the YouTube channel, I would not have gotten the opportunity to do the Last Kumite, which, that's me. How crazy and surreal is that? I grew up loving and watching Bloodsport all the time. Now I'm fighting in the movie Kumite alongside so many of these great individuals I grew up watching in movies. Cynthia Rothrock, Billy Blanks, Kurt McKinney, Matthias Hughes, Muhammad Kisi, Abdel Kisi, who was Attila in Lionheart, one of my favorite movies. And I met Sean Lettich, the writer and director of that. I'm actually doing a movie with Sean Lettich after the fight. It's just crazy what my life has become. And manifestation, putting it out there. And so at the end of the day, my story is going to be you know, it starts off like so many others, you know, a guy, or you could say girl, whatever person, you know, in their 20s, big goals, big dreams. They didn't make it. Like they tried, but they didn't make it for whatever reason, you know. And I'm the guy, I'm all about personal accountability. I'll be the first one to say, I didn't make it because of me. Like I could have done more. I'm not going to say, oh, I didn't this and that. And no, it's me 100%. But that is empowering, because once you realize that, you do know it's like, okay, so if it's all on me, I could turn this around. So, and that's what I did. So now I'm coming back, like at this time in my life, it's crazy. Like I said, I fought in the movie Kumite. Now I got a huge fight, you know, and I have a gold journal. You know, this stuff doesn't just happen by chance, by the way. You know, people don't know about these seeds that I planted years ago. Years ago. Yeah, the dream started 20 years ago, but more recently, 4.5 years ago, and even 3 years ago, where I was trying to get this movie project together, trying to get the financing. I wrote the screenplay. I was working with another guy. It wasn't quite getting to the point where it needed to get. Like, I raised some money for it, you know. It's very hard. But they, you know, people don't understand, you know, you raise a little bit of money. That was probably because you talked to 50 people. Maybe one of them put some money. There's so much going on. There's so much work behind the scenes, you know. And but anyway, these seeds that I planted are starting to sprout, you know, and I could harvest that crop. There's some good stuff going on. And talking about like the gold journal and the vision board, and trying to write your steps on, okay, what do I need to do to get this done? And this goal will lead to this bigger one. And, you know, even the vision board, like, you have to see it before it even happens. You got to believe it. You got to feel like it's already happening. And again, in that stage, other people think, oh, this dude's just delusional, but they don't understand. They don't see the vision. They'll see it after, like when they see me in the ring with Shane, they'll see it. Literally, physically. Right now, they don't see it. I mean, yeah, they know the fight's happening, but they, you know, people are, oh, you're a martial arts guy, you're not gonna look that good boxing him. But they don't see the work I'm putting in every single day, you know. And again, I'm aligned with the right people. I'm not just at a normal boxing gym hitting pads. Like, the stuff that Phil's doing with me, it's next level. You could even ask our mutual friend Grandmaster Gary Amon, because he had talked to Phil. We all met up not last Saturday, Saturday before that. So he got to meet Phil and kind of pick his brain. He understands. He knows. You know, Gary's such a high-level martial artist. He will know if somebody is legit and if they know what they're talking about. You know, like, Gary understands how great Phil is just from a conversation, because Gary's a high level. He can understand that kind of stuff. So anyway, long story short, yeah, my biggest disappointment was something that I really wanted to do, and I failed. And I'm the first person to admit that I could have done more. But I also knew I was not going to break in the traditional way. I just didn't know which way I was going to go, you know. And it did end up being the YouTube channel. And yeah, it's very interesting. You know, I get emotional about it because right now, as we talk, I'm in Simi Valley. This is where it all began when I moved here by myself, not knowing a soul in Southern California, with a dream that I tried to do. It didn't work out. I moved to the Midwest, and now, you know, I'm back here, come full circle, staying with my brother. You know, as you get older, you don't get to spend as much time with your siblings. Like, this is going to be one of the greatest summers of my life, spending time with my brother and his family, training for my biggest challenge ever, and then right after doing, you know, a movie with Sheldon Lettich, a guy that I really, you know, for people like me, he was like our Spielberg. Like, he made our favorite movies. Like, you know, he wrote Bloodsport, he wrote and directed Lionheart, Double Impact, Only the Strong, you know. But yeah, this is going to be something that just the summer in California, you know, training for this. It's funny because last time I was here, I was telling my brother, and I do, by the way, that project I was working on 3 years ago that I wrote, great screenplay. I do plan, and there's some good momentum behind it. Will most likely finally make that next year, at some point next year. But as much as, like, I love that project and it means everything to me, I wrote it for myself, by the way. You know, because I wrote something I knew like this would be perfect for me. It's kind of like what Stallone did with Rocky, or Matt
Right.
Damon and Ben Affleck with Good Will Hunting. There's stories like that where it's like, okay, I have the philosophy is if you're not getting invited to the table, build your own. So
Right.
that's what I've been doing with this screenplay and price. Like build my own table, then I'll get noticed, and then I'll get invited to the big table, right? So that's
Yeah.
the whole goal. But as much as I want to make this project, and I know I will, and I know it's going to be great, the thing that I wanted more than anything in my life, like right now, at least at this point in my life, and I'll explain why. And I was
Yeah.
telling my brother last time I was here, and these were just discussions. This wasn't in stone. It wasn't going to happen yet, but I felt like it could. I felt like there was a good possibility, and now it is happening. I said, I want that fight with Sugar Shane Mosley more than anything right now in my life, and I'll tell you why.
Yeah.
Like I'm a middle-aged guy, and a lot of people who are middle-aged, especially guys, what do? They buy a Corvette, or they buy a Porsche, or they buy a motorcycle. But a material possession will never give you fulfillment. I think a guy, some women too, but especially a man, and there are big differences
Mm-hmm.
between men and women, despite what some people say these days. I mean, there are,
Yeah.
for men, we need to step up to like a big challenge. Like we need that as men,
Yeah.
especially in middle age,
Mm-hmm.
because a lot of people might hit that and think, oh, it's all downhill from here. It's like,
Yeah.
that's the wrong mindset. I mean, that is the wrong mindset. And you'll never be fulfilled then if you're just, okay, well, I'm middle age, I'll just buy my Corvette and I'll be happy for a week. It's like, no, man, you need something. You need to challenge and push yourself and
Right.
evolve as a person. Because the
Yeah.
thing is, like, with me, like this fight, it's not just physical. Like I got to build
That's
physical, mental, spiritual, every aspect. And it's going to make me a better person. Despite the outcome of the fight, knowing that I've grown and evolved as a person and going all in, fully committed, then
yeah.
I just level up as a person, and I'm fulfilled in some way. And I
Yep.
feel like that can inspire others, because people need to see that. They need examples of that. And like I said, it's the real life Rocky story.
Yeah. And you've made that choice that you're going to develop and evolve, and it's not going to stop with just that fight. That's a lifelong journey, like martial arts. And the reason why you could turn that disappointment into the success, that you had those years, into the success that you have here today, you're in that very spot where you failed once, but now you're sitting here, talking to me, and you've conquered, is because you decided to pivot, you decided to adapt, you decided to keep on working on yourself and on your dreams. And sometimes we don't have a straight road to our goals and our visions. Sometimes we take the long road, but that doesn't mean that the journey on the way there is not beautiful. And it doesn't teach, it teaches us a lot of things about ourselves. It teaches us a lot of things about other people. And it teaches us a lot of things about our dream and the world and how it works. I think life is amazing no matter what age you are. I agree with you completely that, yes, sometimes men, in their midlife, I think they refer to it as a midlife crisis. So I've seen the Corvettes and the Ferraris and, that happening. But guys, when you get to that place, like David says, start to work on the next exciting chapter of your life, because the adventure doesn't have to end. Developing is exciting. Starting a new chapter, starting a new hobby, getting a new passion, putting your hand to something that you've always wanted to do that makes you happy. That's the point in life. I was on a podcast with someone, I was the guest. Nobody had ever asked me that before, but her one question to me was, what makes you happy? Or when are you successful? That was the question. And I said, and without even thinking, I said, I feel successful when I'm happy, because when I'm happy, I can do whatever I put my mind to. I said, so I try to find the joy and the happiness in every day. Doesn't matter what my morning starts out like. I look at that silver lining around that dark cloud, and I focus on just that one good thing in my day. And funny enough, my day starts to turn. The script starts to flip, because my focus is not on everything that's wrong. It's on everything, or maybe just that little thing that's going right. So development, character, new experiences, that to me is what bring us joy and what bring us happiness. And Gary, amazing. I'm giving a shout out to him, both David and I. He's our grandmaster, Gary Henry. Amen. And I've walked quite a road with him, and he is absolutely high level, very knowledgeable, very skilled, and he's good people. There's a lot of people out there, that don't always make that personal connection with their students. I have to say, Gary is someone that is special. He's unique. He's our brother. He's our fellow martial artist, and he's our GM. So David, it's been so wonderful to have you here. Do you have any final words of wisdom for the audience before I let you go for the 4th of July so you can go and spend time with your family?
I do have 2 things I'd like to say. Number one, don't think of like a midlife crisis. See, think of what I had. I was initially falling into that like most people, right, but I turned it around to midlife realization that I could still do everything I ever wanted to do. I look at it like a basketball game analogy. It's like, okay, half the game's over. It's halftime. I'm losing. Doesn't mean I have to lose the game. Like, you could turn it around, still win. So that's what I'm doing right now, and I encourage other people to do it too. Change the mindset, especially if you're at this age. A lot of people who watch my YouTube channel grew up with the movies I did, so they're around the same age, and they may have gone through the midlife crisis, or maybe they're going to go through it, but you don't have to. You could have the midlife realization, and you could still realize everything you ever wanted to do. And I'm a prime example of doing that. The other thing I want to point out, and somebody might think it's negative, but I don't even see it that way. I felt like it served a purpose. I felt like this was a test from God, and he had used my ex-wife, who was my wife at the time. It's like, okay, this pursuit, and I was talking about this project I'm putting together, and, it was 3 years ago, and like, I'm working hard. It takes a while to finish the screenplay. Then I'm doing the subsequent drafts, and I'm trying to raise money. I'm on phone calls, all that, trying to raise money. So I trust and have faith in the process, but people want to see results. And she sees me spend all of my time outside of regular work, gym, and martial arts, all of my time trying to get this project going. So, like, initially it was exciting, and then it became frustrating. And I'm just like, man, is this just another, I have that dream's really alive again that I kind of put to the side when I moved to Midwest, right? And then, like, boy, you start questioning. You're just setting yourself up for massive disappointment again, So my wife at the time told me, because a couple of years ago I said, like, I'm going to do movies. I'm going to do real fights, like big fights, And she was like, just kind of gave me that look like, yeah, it's not going to happen, especially at your age. But I do remember, like, last year, she had told me, especially with the movie thing, because again, she wasn't seeing the results. She see all the work I put in, and I have trust and faith in the process. She doesn't, and I don't blame her, because nothing is happening that she could see. So she had told me it's a stupid childhood dream that's never going to happen, and that was like a dagger to my heart. I literally had like a nervous breakdown and broke down and almost quit everything because I knew how much time and energy I was putting into it, but I wasn't getting the results.
Yes.
And then so I was like hanging on by a thread. And I do believe God used her. I look, she's more of that blunt, tell it how it is. I don't resent her at all. I'm glad she said that to me, because for me, it was a test of like, she was not only my wife, but also my, outside of my brother, literally my best friend, the person closest to me. If some random person, like internet troll or whatever, said that, it's like, whatever. I hear that all the time. People tell me I can't do stuff all the time. That's on them. Like that, that's self-reflective. They're basically just saying what they feel about themselves, and they're projecting it on me. Right. So that doesn't bug me, but somebody that close to me, it shook me. And I'm glad she said that, though, because it made me realize that, God's telling me, Well, first of all, he's asking, like, how bad do you really want this when you have the person absolutely closest to you that does not think it's going to happen, telling you that it's not going to happen? And do you still believe it's going to, are you still going to work towards it? So that was a big test for me. And, you know, I realized as long as you believe it, as long as you trust the process, have faith in it, it's going to work out. It's going to work out. It doesn't matter what other people think. I mean, it's great to have the support, but there's going to be some people that support and some people that don't. You know, they'll actually try to wreck your success. They'll try to sabotage you. You know, there's all kinds of people out there. And that's why I was saying, you know, earlier in this interview, you got to find and align yourself with the right people. Now the thing is, I want to point this out because I hold no resentment towards my ex-wife. You know, like I still see her as somebody I would like to be friends with. And the relationship, you know, I mean, it was an 11-year relationship. There's a lot of layers and complexity to it. It wasn't like because she said that ended the relationship. There were a lot of issues already, you know. And yeah, you know, but yeah, so I don't resent her at all. I mean, like I said, I'm glad she said it. But the important thing is anybody listening, it doesn't matter if you get the support or not. Like, it's great if you do, but if you don't, you have to believe it. You have to have faith. You have to work. And that's what matters. That's what matters. And you can pull it off.
That's right. You made some good points here today. And things that stood out for me were, you know, that you talked about your vision board, you talked about seeing it, you talked about feeling it, believing it. You know, the first thing that I do, and I've had many people look at me straight in the eye and tell me that I can't do something. And I always tell them, just watch me. Just watch me, because that fuels me. That fuels my desire to succeed. When people doubt me, when people don't think I'm capable of doing something, when they don't support me, they rather try to. And you mentioned that some people try and sabotage your dreams and your project and your. I use that as stepping stools like you, and I use that as fuel. So to the people out there, David and I, we've been through similar experiences, guys. You can do this. You keep believing it. Like he said, feel it. Think about it constantly, manifest that into your life, and it will come about. And have faith in yourself, you know, and work on yourself constantly. Every day is a new day. So I want to say thank you, David. David and I also have a mutual friend, wonderful person, Dr. Robert Goldman. I do want to give him a shout out because we were together at an event in Florida. That's where I met David the first time. Guys, at Mr. Goldman, Dr. Bob, as we call him, he's doing impeccable things out there. So make sure to watch this interview. Follow these amazing individuals that we've mentioned here today, our mutual friends. Follow David, get on his YouTube channel and support him in his projects, because we are here to, as we rise, we lift. We are here to support each other, and that's what Meticulous is about. It's about community upliftment through leadership development. So, David, thank you for blessing the audience on July 4th. Have a wonderful day with your family and keep shining. Us.
Thanks so much, Juanita. Bye, everybody.
Bye. Guys, thank you for tuning in on this wonderful day. It is so amazing to see that Meticulous is in season 3 now. Thank you for the audience members, the amazing guests, everyone that supports this channel, everyone that supports this podcast. And before we go, very importantly, we want to put some focus on our sponsors, guys. Thank you so much for doing the great work that you are doing out there. And those are the awarenessfamily.com, as well as New Beginnings Motivation. So I'm going to end this session with 2 of their videos. Follow them. They've got events coming up as well. And guys, let's all keep shining, and happy Independence Day. May you all be blessed and have an amazing time with your loved ones. And always remember how blessed and special you all are, and that every day is a gift and a blessing. I'll see you in the next session.
Beginning, baby, that was it. I want me cause I take two, I'm into a figure stop to follow.
Yeah. My mind and I ain't no social activist, I'm asking this.
stay for a while now. Put the guns down, you can find another way. You can heal from your pain. Stay for a while now. Put the drugs down, you can find another way. You can heal from your pain. Beginning, baby, that was it. I want me 'cause I'm into a figure stop. Search to the top, where dreams take flight. Embrace the unknown, no longer hide.